Okay, is that better?
A little bit.
Reading was. Okay. After all, if they had let me have access to the whole thing, I might have just come across something that was not appropriate for my impressionable young mind. In time, though, they relented, and I had access to the entire collection. I have to wonder in retrospect, too, how that might have all gone down had it happened now with all the uproar about banning books and what's appropriate and oh my goodness. But back then, as a, I don't know, maybe 8-year-old, having been granted access to the grown-up section of the library, I felt like I had arrived. I too was a grown-up. Also, my maternal grandmother frequently gave me books. They were pretty much her standard present for my birthday, Christmas, whatever. In retrospect, I am very, very much aware of how much she and my grandfather may have sacrificed to do that, because they were not wealthy people by any means. Many of the books came from a used bookstore that she could do mail order from. Amazon wasn't even a sparkle in Jeff Bezos' greedy entrepreneurial eye at that point, of course. These weren't kids' books either, and that's what part of why it made an impression. One of the things I deeply appreciated at the time and continue to appreciate about my grandmother many years after her death is that she typically didn't give me kid presents. There were probably some of those as well, but I don't remember them. The things I remember were the grown-up presents that she gave me, and I felt honored and seen, and I still have a number of those. Fast forward to 2016. My husband Tom and I have rented a house near the ocean in Florida for a couple of months every winter since then. And one of the joys of these rental houses is that frequently previous renters will have brought a book or two with them. They've read it. They don't think they'll read it again. They don't want to carry it home. And so they leave it for the next people to discover. And I've left my share as well. It's always quite fun to see what I can find. Well, one of the finds from this past winter was Monica Gottlieb Sarl's Sand in My Shoes, a relatively short collection of short stories written about her growing up childhood in the Bahamas. One of them is titled The Egret. She tells the story from her point of view, but I thought it might be fun to think about how the egret might have told the story. One of the marvelous things about reading is that it encourages us to use our imagination to enter empathically into the experience of another. Usually that other is another human being, but not always. Reading just may show us that others who seem very different from ourselves, like the mayfly and the fish, aren't really all that different after all. As the author tells her side of the story, it goes like this. And summarizing and leaving out huge chunks, but as she was running through her village, she overheard some boys yelling and laughing viciously about what they were going to do to an egret they had captured because it had an injured wing and couldn't fly. Despite being only 9 years old, she ran toward the egret and managed to get her hands on the bird. She held the bird tightly and ran toward her house. Her parents were in the Bahamas because they were medical missionaries, and her mother was a nurse, as well as a lifelong bird lover. They created a supportive and secure resting place for the injured bird. The bird survived, and Monica goes into considerable detail about all they had done to help the egret live and heal. But then one day, perhaps inevitably, her mother said to her, "Sweetheart, I need to talk with you. Your egret's wing is nearly mended now. Soon, he will want to fly away and find his friends." Well, Monica could not believe that her bird friend would fly away and leave her. But she soon noticed that he was stretching his wings and scanning the horizon. "He did not fly," she recounts, "but I saw in him a new restlessness. I felt his longing to ride the wind. I knew I could never travel with him, and this saddened me." Well, one evening, as she watched him hunt for lizards and small fish, she continues, "One evening at sunset, when the sky was on fire, I sat on the garden wall watching him. Suddenly, I heard the beating of wings. I looked up to see another snowy white egret land beneath the old ficus tree. Instantly, my bird became alert, his body quivering in anticipation. I experienced a rush of mixed emotions. So touched was I by the astonishing beauty of both birds standing together in the dusk, and the heart-wrenching fact that they belonged together. I knew my time with the egret was over. He was never my egret. He was only a winged traveler on my path, and my heart felt lonely, yet full." Her mother had come up softly behind her. "The more we live, the more we love," she said quietly, "the more we must let go." "I understand," replied Monica, "but it hurts." As the two birds flew off together, weeks without flying made for a precarious start for the recovered egret. She writes, "Then suddenly, as though supported by a mysterious wind, he rose and soared through the indigo sky, white gossamer feathers creating a show of light that moved with faith into the unknown darkness." So let's turn now to the egret's experience. And of course, we can't know it really from the inside, so I'm speculating and conjecturing here. The egret's experience begins with horror, with abject terror and pain. The innate fear of death the egret must have experienced at the hands of the cruel boys. Then suddenly, the egret felt hands gripping him, different hands. Hands that hurt his already broken body, and yet somehow felt safe, secure. He was being carried along against his will, but even as he struggled to escape Monica's firm grasp, another part of him sensed that he was safe, that indeed this might well be his one hope for survival. Her grip on him felt different somehow. Fear and trust struggled for primacy within him. And he was tired, so very tired. And he let himself be borne along. He lost track of time. The cardboard box that became his safe space while he rested and healed now circumscribed his world. His world, the world of sky and clouds and water, had shrunk. It was, though, safe. There was no struggle, no fear, less pain, until finally the pain had gone away completely. The girl and her mother provided wondrously for his every need. She enticed him to eat so he regained strength. Her voice was soft, gentle, and welcoming, reassuring. Her touch was soothing and encouraging, comforting. His broken heart healed as his broken wing did. Surrounded by their love and care, the egret never wanted to leave. Yet, until something was stirring in him. His small, safe world became too small, perhaps too safe. Something called out to him from the very depths of his being, inviting, urging him forward. He wasn't quite sure toward what. A gentle but insistent voice carried on the wind, rising from the shallow water where he fished under Monica's watchful eye. As he spent more and more time outdoors with Monica, doing the barely remembered things he had done before the great evil struck, that voice became louder, more insistent. It became more definite. He was now pulled in two directions. To answer the call of that voice would mean to leave the safety, the comfort, the tenderness of those humans who cared for him so lovingly. It would mean re-entering the world where the great evil had happened and might perhaps happen again. Yet that voice and its calling was becoming irresistible. Then suddenly, what was that sound? Who was that visitor to his safe and protected world? In little more than an instant, he recognized one of his own kind. The vague call that he had been feeling crystallized as the other egret lit near him, evoking his response. She flew, and he rose to match the beat of her wings in the evening air, his body struggling to remember. And he flew free. I want to suggest 4 things that we might draw from the egret's version of this tale. Monica and the egret both acted instinctively. Hers to try to save the hapless bird, his to trust her enough to let her save him. Savior and saved, joined in an interdependence that is woven into their very being, in our very being as well. The egret's tale also reminds us that we sometimes need for our very survival a safe, welcoming retreat. We need to be taken care of, even when that means a lessening of freedom, even if our world must shrink for a season while we focus on healing. But we can't stay in that sheltered, safe space, as attractive as it might be to do so. Because in times, it becomes stifling, choking off who we truly are. If we stay clinging to comfort and safety when it's time to let go, we do ourselves a disservice. Finally, letting go, even when it is our choice to do so, brings with it grief and sadness. A very wise and very, very dear friend of mine from seminary days was fond of reminding me that relationships, interdependence, isn't something on the surface, but it's a part of us. And when one of those relationships ends, we lose a part of ourselves as well. Monica's sadness was palpable, even as her heart was full as she watched the egret fly into the life he was born to lead. But I can imagine the egret feeling a loss as well, even as he joined with the other egret. We are meant to fly free, born into freedom. We are not meant to fly alone.